Either I'm not Eric Goodman or I forgot my cute little sport coat. Broncos go to England. God save the Queen. We're going deep.
I knew you wanted to do this show as far away from me as possible. So I decided to come to Chicago, where the Bears had the greatest defense of all time. And
Ooh.
I knew the Broncos would have an 85 Bears performance.
Mm.
That's why I thought this would be the most appropriate place to do today's show.
Well, I like it. The lighting's great there. You got your Russell Wilson hat on. I like the backsplash there in the kitchen. We're ready to go deep, aren't we?
We are going deep, but first, want to tell you about Landmark Lincoln and the brand new Lincoln Navigator. Man, this thing is a great stinking ride. You got to go to Landmark Lincoln. You can find them off of Broadway in Englewood. Just look at that. Look how fun that ride looks. Go take that thing for a test drive today. Once again, Landmark Lincoln. You can find them off of Broadway in Englewood. With that, I'm actually in Chicago, Nate, because my father just had knee replacement surgery.
Mm.
Came here to take care of him as much as I could. We were watching the game. He's a big Green Bay Packers fan. And so I'm thinking as I'm watching the game with him, it would be great if the Broncos have a great performance in front of him. And instead, he, no joke, fell asleep in the third quarter, just like pretty much everybody else who was watching the game.
Well, unless you're a fan of dominant defensive performances like you just talked about with the 85 Bears. The Broncos put on one for the ages there. Now, I know we're going to get into the nuts and bolts of it. Some pretty inept play by the Jets, some pretty inept coaching by the
Yeah.
Jets, some very curious sort of game management happening from Aaron Glenn there. Sadly, he almost outcoached Sean Payton, which was pretty ugly. But the defense should be celebrated today. To me, they look like the best defense in the NFL. You tell me what if there's a better defense in the NFL right now.
Well, there might be, but I'm not sure. And the reason why I say that is, for starters, I'll ask you, is it lazy analysis to say they had arguably one of the most dominant defensive performances in franchise history against a really bad offense that can't pass the ball with a terrible quarterback? Do you put any stock in that? And I know a win is a win, and I get that, and it's hard to win in the NFL. But does it take a little shine off of their performance because they played against such a bad offense? Or they just dominated? Let's applaud them wholeheartedly.
I think maybe a smidge of like, wow, the Jets are bad. But at the same time, every dominant defense in the history of the NFL is going to have some of those performances against bad teams. I mean, there's bad teams every year, right? And the Jets seem to be one of those teams. The problem is they almost beat the Broncos, and they almost had enough to do it, and it came down to the very end. And if they didn't have such a bad head coach who didn't know how to handle timeouts and the end of game situation, they would have been in a position to win that game. And so that's something you don't feel great about. But I think that we should feel like the Broncos have a defense that can carry them deep into the playoffs if they can bring the offense with them. And the offense is the concern here.
Even though they were down 11 to 10, did you feel the Broncos were potentially going to lose?
Yeah, I did, because the
See, I
offense looked so
didn't.
bad.
I didn't.
Okay.
Because watching what happened at the end of the first half, I'm thinking the Jets are going to jet. Somehow, some way, they will find a way to screw this up. They are the worst football team over the last 10 years. And I'm like, they'll find a way to mess this up. I mean, honestly, that's how we felt about the Broncos, really since the end of the Peyton Manning era until Sean Payton. How are the Broncos going to find a way to screw this thing up? That's the way I felt about the Jets. And you look at the end of the game, it's fourth down. The pass rush had been dominant the entire game. Fields is barely going to get off a pass. And I understand that the field goal attempt was 4 yards beyond what Nick Folk does. They should have kicked the field goal because there was no way they were going to move the ball on fourth down. No way. Did you
Yeah, I
think
mean,
they
they
were
weren't
going
moving
to?
the. No, I didn't. I mean, that end of game situation was kind of interesting because they had that fumbled snap that Brees Hall picked up and ran for 12 yards, right? Gets him a first down. And then after that, Sean Payton starts calling timeouts, which I thought was crazy. I mean, I guess like there's an analytical slant to it where you would look back and say, yeah, call your timeouts now so you can save some time in case they're able to get in field goal range. But they weren't even beyond the 50-yard line. Their team had such a hard time moving the ball, and they had no idea how to use their own timeouts. And to me, Sean Payton is calling timeouts and giving them more time to think about it, giving Aaron Glenn time to step back and say, "You guys handle it because I don't know what the fuck I'm doing." And I thought that was insane game management by Sean Payton to call timeouts at the end of that game and give them more time to think about what they're doing because they had no idea what they were doing. And the game management was pretty curious. I mean, at the end of the first half, it was really weird. They do a fake punt on their own 37 on 4th and 1. They pick up the first down to do what? Run out the clock? It didn't make any sense whatsoever. Not one of the teams threw a deep pass in the game. They didn't just go for it at all. And instead of like going for a Hail Mary on 4th down at the end of the first half, they decided to let the clock run out and not even run a play. It was some really, really bad coaching in that game. The problem was that despite all that really, really bad coaching, the Broncos weren't able to have a dominant victory in that setting. And I know they're coming back feeling very, very good about the defense. Very good. Yeah. But the offense has a lot of work to do.
The defense should have flown home charter. And you could make the case that the offense and the special teams should have walked to the Atlantic Ocean and swam home.
Oh, wow. Yeah, through the English Channel.
Right. I mean, it was really that bad. But let's get back to the defense really quickly, because you and I have had this conversation week after week, depending on who they have played. This great dominant defense got rolled by the Colts. Then the defense completely shuts down and embarrasses the Bengals. So the question we almost seem to have every week is, how good is this Broncos defense? So let me set this up for you. The Bengals have the 32nd ranked offense in football. The Titans are 31st. The Eagles are 29th. The Jets are 27th. And then on the flip side, we already mentioned the Colts. So yeah, they're really good against really bad offenses. But when they play a good offense, they don't look as dominant, do they?
No, but isn't that kind of like probably a little bit I mean, you could sort of predict that. Like the best offenses in the league are going to be a little bit harder to be dominant on against. And that's okay. That's why you have an offense on the other side of the ball that is responsible for putting up points. And I know we're going to talk about the offense here in a little bit. The defense can't win you every game. They're not going to shut down every single offense in the NFL. There's a reason why top 5 offenses in the NFL are top 5, because they can move the ball versus any defense, because they're clicking, because they're on rhythm, because they're well coached, because they got players who are making plays. That happens. Even the best defenses ever, even the 85 Bears, Eric. I know you're in Chicago right now, and you're probably
I'm not on the, listen, hey, Nate, I'm not on the south side of Chicago near Cicero and Pulaski near Midway Airport. I'm not going to get a Connie's Pizza or anything like that. But yeah, I'm in Chicago, and you can make the case the Bears aren't the greatest defense of all time. But let's not forget about the Orange Crush that limited their opponents to less than 11 points a game either.
Yeah, and the Broncos defense, after that 11-point performance, probably under 14 points a game right now, one of the top 5 defenses in the league, playing like that Orange Crush defense, like that 85 Bears. And yes, like the no-fly zone and the 2015 team that's going to be honored this Sunday at Empower Field against the Giants. You got 163 former players coming to Alumni Weekend to honor the Super Bowl 50 team, and Demaryius Thomas, Ring of Fame being unveiled. It's going to be an emotional, exciting weekend here in Broncos country. I don't want to get ahead of us with the Giants, but this defense playing at a really super duper high level, guys making plays, not allowing any yards after the catch, tackling guys before the sticks, 9 sacks, on pace to break their, to break the record of most sacks in a season. Nick Benito with another sack. Jonathan Cooper looking like a beast. Hufanga had a sack. All these dudes are getting sacks and wreaking havoc back there. So, yes, the Jets look like crap. Yes, it was a poorly executed offense. Yes, Justin Fields looks lost out there. But at the same time, the Broncos feasted on that, and that's exactly what they're supposed to do.
You are too young to remember, young Padawan, the Orange Crush defense. You were born what year?
79.
Okay, so after the Orange Crush defense, me being the old guy, I remember how great they were. But so let's compare them because I'm guessing, even though I'm not in Denver right now, there has been some talk already on Sports Talk Radio. Which defense was better? The 2015 Broncos or this defense? You get one game to play. Which defense are you taking?
Well, I think the 2015 Broncos defense proved it over a longer period of time. And if I'm going to choose one of them, I'm going to choose that one right now because this one hasn't proven it all season long and into the playoffs and won a Super Bowl and been the reason for the Super Bowl win. You know, the Broncos defense and Von Miller were the heroes of Super Bowl 50. And so until this defense can do something like that, of course, you can't choose them over 2015. But they're doing pretty darn well to put themselves in that position. They need the offense to pull their weight and step up. And that's a real conversation that's going to be had in the building.
When you look at historic defenses, you doing okay?
Yeah, man. I'm just a little frog in my throat here, you know, just a little bit under the weather.
Well, I'm glad I'm not in the studio. I don't want to get sick from you. So that's why, another reason why I'm in Chicago. We're doing this remotely so I don't get sick. But when you look at the historic defenses of all time, the Steelers in the 70s, the 85 Bears, the 2001
Wait, I thought
Ravens.
you said the Steelers in the 70s were all about Terry Bradshaw. What are you talking about?
That team was loaded.
Gotcha.
That team was loaded with Hall of Famers everywhere.
But you said it was all about the quarterback. Okay, let's go.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't all Terry Bradshaw. All I said was, Nate, pipe down. Can I finish? Chuck Noll never won anything without Terry Bradshaw, period. That was my only statement, and that's a fact. So when you look at all-time historic defenses, you have the Steelers, the Bears in 85, the Ravens in 2001, the Buccaneers in 2003, the Seahawks in 2013, and sorry, Broncos country, the 2015 Broncos are not historic. They weren't during the regular season.
What?
They had a great playoff run.
Doesn't that make them historic, though?
No, they were great. They weren't the Seahawks. Are you kidding me? The Seahawks shut down the most productive offense in NFL history at that time against Peyton Manning and the Broncos. It's not worth having this conversation because I'll lead it to this. All of those teams I just mentioned did win Super Bowls, including the Broncos in 2015. So before everybody on Sports Talk Radio and TV and blogs and so on and so forth get ahead of themselves, are these Broncos better than the 2015 team? The only way they can possibly be mentioned is if they win a Super Bowl, period, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I think if it leads towards that, you know, if this is building on something that's going to be a year after year dominance for this defense. Now, Vance Joseph might not be around for long if he keeps playing this well and has his guys playing this well. He's going to get another shot at being a head coach. And when that happens, this defense will change because Vance Joseph deserves a lot of credit for what's happening, dialing up the right defense at the right time, getting these guys in the right position to go play their best football. So it's about the chemistry that you have in the moment. And for that reason, this defense could get lost. The excellence of this defense could get lost unless the offense picks up their end of things and starts scoring points and winning games decisively. That's what you need. Dominant performances on both sides of the ball. Now, yeah, the best teams, when one team is when one side of the ball is having a tough day, the other side of the ball picks it up. But you can't do that every week. This defense cannot be relied on to win every single game. The Broncos offense has to figure it out quickly.
Well, if there is a silver lining in all of this through 6 games, if the Broncos defense continues to play like this, then the offense has 11 games to figure it out if they make the playoffs. That to me is a silver lining. No?
Yeah, they have time, but it's 6 games in, dude, and that was a bad team, the Jets. Now, it was a pretty good defense. They played pretty well, but at the same time, there are some internal issues that have nothing to do with the team that's across from you that the Broncos need to figure out.
What are those internal issues that you believe are going on right now?
Well, the game flow, the play calling is concerning for me because because there's no rhythm. There's no rhythm to the passing game. There's no rhythm to the attack. There's no straightforward attack. It all seems to be sideways, misdirection, trying to get people going in this way and not going that way. Let's keep it simple where Bo feels comfortable. Let's do some three-step drop, quick slants. I mean, they ran a quick slant to Pat Bryant for 11 yards on third down on the second drive. It was easy. Let's do more of that because Bo feels really comfortable throwing slants. And Michael Thomas, the receiver that played for Sean Payton in New Orleans, had 149 catches and broke the record in a single season and probably caught 50 slants that year. He was considered the slant king. Pat Bryant could be the slant king. Cortland Sutton could be the slant king, but we're not throwing slants. As a receiver, I like to do simple routes right off the bat, and I know those guys do too, and I know Bo does too, and I know the offensive line does too, because it's really easy to block those and get in a rhythm. You're not standing back there forever and protecting all this fancy, long developing plays or misdirection stuff. Let's attack. There is no attack. It doesn't seem like they're attacking north and south. Everything's east and west. And to me, it's putting these guys in a confused state and not allowing them to get a rhythm. There's also penalties that are hamstringing these moments. Costly penalty. Go ahead.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Matt Pert just got called for another penalty.
Okay, but you know what? Some of this is on the play calling as well. You know, like you're putting him in a position where he's not comfortable. You're calling plays that he hasn't run, and that he might ask him to hold on for a little bit longer than he can. You're putting him bow and shotgun every single fucking play, and I'm wondering why, because the timing is off on some of these things. Put him under center, let him do a three-step drop and throw the ball on time to his guys. I mean, Cortland Sutton gets, 3 targets all game. Why are you not throwing the ball to Cortland Sutton? Cortland Sutton should be very first drive, very first play. I'm throwing the ball to 14 on a quick pass. That's just what I would do to get this guy involved. It would be J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton. J.K. Dobbins, Cortland Sutton on the first drive. Okay? Troy Franklin, had that fumble on the first. He made a nice play to catch the ball and create a throw on a scramble drill, but then his hands are a little out of whack again. He catches it against his body. He doesn't have the ball secured, and there's a fumble there. Every time they got something going, it was like the rhythm stopped with either a penalty or a mistake or a fumble or whatever it is. And so to me, there's an energetic blockage there, and I think it's a play calling issue. I really do. And so a lot of it seems too cute to me, Eric. You don't have to be cute. And when you're trying to be cute as an offensive play caller, what that tells me on offense is you don't think I can just go kick this guy's ass, which is a problem for me because the guy across from me can't stop me, coach. So why are we doing the cute shit, trying to set up the sweet play call instead of just attacking them down the field, attacking their leverage, coming off the ball where everything looks exactly the same, letting both throw on rhythm, handing the ball off, and then the play action will come as you develop that rhythm and that attacking feel. And they're not attacking. And for me, that's what I have a problem with, is this lack of an attacking mentality on offense and instead trying to be too cute.
Let's just pretend you're in that locker room and you're a player on that team. Do you think the offensive players are pointing the finger at Sean Payton for the lack of productivity?
I don't think they're necessarily pointing the finger because, I think they believe in Sean Payton. They trust Sean Payton. His resume speaks for itself.
Yeah, but it doesn't sound like you believe in what Sean.
It's not
Payton
that I don't
is
believe.
doing
Of course, I believe in him. I mean,
but he's getting too cute. He's getting too cute. All of those things.
Well, these are things that happen, that you go back and you see it and you try to fix it, right? The problem with some of these, genius offensive coaches is that simple is hard for them to do because they want to make it complicated. They want to flex their genius muscle. They want to show everyone that they're smarter and that they can design a better play than everyone else. When sometimes when you have better players than the guys across from you, you can just keep it simple and attack them and push the ball downfield. You can stick the knife in. There's nothing they can do to stop it. If I can kick your ass, Eric, I'm not going to do a bunch of dipsy doodle shit. I'm just going to kick your ass. And there's nothing you could do to stop it because I'm bigger, faster, stronger, and all that stuff. Now, the other guys are getting paid too, and I'm not disparaging the quality of player on the other side, but the Broncos are better coached. They're better prepared for these games, and I think that better coaching doesn't mean more complex offenses. Better coaching means an understanding of the moment and the ability to create leverage and attack space and just go and make these plays on these guys. And I feel like the passing game is lacking that simplicity that, to me, as a former pass catcher, is the most effective way to get your guys going.
Just listening to what you're saying without you actually saying it, you might as well say it because I'm going to keep pressing you on this. It sounds like you're pointing the finger at Sean Payton for the problems.
Sure. I mean, look, coaching can sometimes get in the way of players becoming their best. Sean Payton knows how to get the best out of players. I think that this game plan was too tricky and too cute for what they needed here. They were on the road in England. They had a lot of variables going on there that aren't usual for a normal game. They didn't get to go home for 10 days. They're practicing in a weird facility. They're eating shitty food, right? They're doing all these things that make them a little discombobulated. By the way, the word discombobulated, Eric, is a strange word because discombobulated we know, but combobulated is a word you never hear. Have you ever been? I mean, are you feeling combobulated right now, Eric?
I scored a 440 on the verbal on the SAT. That I'm not a good one to ask when it comes to big words.
We want the Broncos offense to look combobulated. We want them to combobulate themselves. And the way you combobulate yourself is you just throw it to Cortland. Just throw it to him. It's easy. He knows how to catch. I mean, there's routes that no matter what the coverage is, it works. A slant is one of them. It doesn't matter what you do. Now, you could really try to take that away, but you could check that as well. Let's pitch and catch with the open shit. Evan Ingram starting to come on, right? Yeah. Let him work the middle of the field. There are some simple things that work no matter what coverage you do, and allow Bo to pick a side or pick an area that he likes and just throw it. Don't make it too tricky here. And I feel like with all the variables that happened last week and them being away from home for 10 days and all this stuff, I think Sean Payton really thought he was going to put up 40 on the Jets. Yeah, I think he really was drinking the Kool-Aid about how bad they were. Instead of just doing what we do well and what's going to get us going in a weird week on weird soil, eating weird food, let's just do something easy, guys, that we know is going to – like, they didn't throw one deep route. They did not throw a deep pass. Why? That's football. Go long. 2 jet all go. Everybody goes deep. I'm going to pick a side. They didn't do that once. Do you know why they didn't throw one deep route?
No.
Because I don't.
Right.
And if I'm a wide receiver on that team, I'm so confused as to why he didn't call one all go. And so not just like energetically because I want to catch a deep pass, but because if you go deep, then it lets your underneath stuff work better because you force them to reconcile with that. You know, you force them to cover that. I like going deep on the first play of the game for that reason. Get them on their heels. Then you can lean on them with the underneath stuff or some quick passes or run the football after they know that you're ready to go behind them. We didn't see any attempt to get beyond their defense. Not one. Not one single one. With a guy like Cortland who can go up and get those 50-50 balls and turn them into 90-10 balls, Eric, because of his size, his ball skills, and his ability to use his body to wedge it between the defender and the ball, and you didn't see him get one single opportunity to do that in the game. I thought that was a mistake.
Once again, this show brought to you by Landmark Lincoln and the brand new Lincoln Navigator. You got to get down to Englewood and go for a test drive. Look at that beauty, and I'm not talking about Liv. I'm talking about the car. And Liv, by the way, does not come with the car. That's correct, Nate. Liv does not come with the car. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so go take this thing for a test drive. It's a beautiful ride inside and out. Landmark Lincoln, brand new Lincoln Navigator. Find them off of Broadway and Englewood. Sean Payton said Darren Rizzi is likely as disappointed in special teams as Payton was with the offense. So let's talk about that Broncos special teams, which was not so special teams against the Jets. Okay, we'll start it off with the offense, though. Broncos fumbled on the opening possession. Jets kick a field goal. Special teams, 72-yard kickoff return they allowed. Jets kick a field goal. Special teams allowed a 31-yard kickoff return. Jets kick a field goal. Then Quinn Miners gets called for holding in the end zone. Jets get a safety. Which was worse? The offense or the special teams. But I'll give you a little primer on my end. If the offense was a tuna fish sandwich sitting in the sun for 7 days, the special teams was a glass of milk sitting in the sun for 7 days. Would you rather take a bite or a drink?
That's a good question. I'd rather take a drink. I thought that the tuna fish sandwich was the worst part of that situation. Yes, you did give up that 72-yard kick return, which is unacceptable. And there was a couple of missed tackles and a couple of moments in that were pretty bad. And you know, DeAndre Tillman, number 92, who's a defensive lineman, squares up that returner and just kind of thuds off him because he didn't bring his hands and wrap up and make the tackle. Right? JL Skinner was in position too, puts his head down and lunges and misses the tackle because he put his head down. The guy knifing in from the left-hand side didn't go flat enough and shoot his shot. He kind of chopped his feet real quick in the hole, and that allowed the guy that little much room to get out of there. So there was a lot of failures and breakdowns there. And the interesting thing about this new kickoff rule is that, these lanes open up, and I don't know enough about the technique with the new kickoff rule, but you don't see a lot of these big returns get broken because there aren't a lot of huge lanes. And so that was a big breakdown there to have that wide gulf open up like that. And really, Chris Abrams-Drain on his horse is the one who saved the touchdown there and probably saved the game by stopping that touchdown because the Jets didn't get in the end zone one time. And then, the fake they did on the punt. Yeah, Rizzy saw it coming. He was telling everyone, it's coming, it's coming. Right. It was only 4-1, and I understood they got a pretty good they gave a good effort there. They picked it up anyway, which didn't really matter because Aaron Glenn just wanted to run the clock out. It was a really poor game management by Aaron Glenn, and you just wonder how he gets a head coaching opportunity when he lacks the basic sort of game management skills and ability to manage like timeouts and end of half and end of game stuff. And you see Deion Sanders struggle with some of that stuff too. I mean, you may be a great recruiter and have a good mind for the big picture, but you're a defensive player, and all of a sudden you're a former defensive player, and all of a sudden you're responsible for calling these timeouts and managing a clock and understanding how to negotiate the end of a half and the end of the game. And so Sean Payton had the clear advantage there over Aaron Glenn, and still somehow, and I know I'm diverting from your question here a little bit, but still somehow almost got out-coached and almost put himself in position to lose that game. I don't know how you felt about this, Eric, but the timeouts that Sean Payton was calling at the end of the game in the hopes of keeping some seconds on the clock to get the ball back in case the Jets scored, I thought was pretty ludicrous. Why are you giving these guys more time to think about it? They're not even beyond the 50-yard line yet, and you're trying to hoard seconds in case your offense, which couldn't even move the ball at all, might get the ball back. And he conceded a possession on 3rd and 10 from his own 18, handed it off to the fullback because he didn't trust Bo to try to pick up a 3rd down and 10, and yet you're trying to secure seconds in case they make a 60-yard field goal, and then you can. So it was a weird end of half, weird end of game clock management from both perspectives. But I think as far as special teams goes, that huge return was kind of a black eye on it. But I think the offensive performance was actually worse.
I think one of the strengths of this Broncos locker room is the togetherness and is the leadership. And when a season starts to unfold the way it is unfolding, you're going to hear this phrase brought up a lot. And I'm not saying this is going on right now, but I am wondering if we are 12 games into the season and this continues the way it is, despite the leadership and veterans in that locker room, do you think it is possible? And you played football long enough. You know when one unit is upset with the other unit for not doing enough. Do you think it is possible that this locker room could get fractured if this type of play continues from the offense?
Frustration, sure, but not fractured. I think that they're professional enough to understand that, everybody's working their hardest to get this thing done, and they're trying.
It's not about working hard, Nate. It's about results.
No, I
That's
get
what
that.
it's about. And hold on. The other thing is this. Eventually, the defense is going to – when every defense goes on the field, they don't want to give up any points. They want to pitch a shutout. But when you see the offense, the way it is performing right now, I think there is an extra level of pressure. If we give up a touchdown, we could lose.
Yeah.
That is different. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And frustrations are going to exist. And the Broncos, a couple of weeks ago had an offensive explosion against the Bengals that kind of put to rest any frustrations that might have been existing there. And then they go to Philly and play a really good team and score 18 points unanswered at the end of the game there. And so that alleviates a lot of the frustrations as well. So the defense says, hell yeah, you guys brought us back. You guys won it for us. I mean, there's a feeling in the locker room after the game against Philly that the offense won that game for us, even though the defense played phenomenal and shut them down in the second half and were really excellent in that game. The offense were able to put up points in the fourth quarter and win. So I think 2 games in a row, the Bengals and the Philadelphia Eagles left a really good taste in everyone's mouth about the offensive performance. But then a game like yesterday in England against the Jets, you take a step back there. I don't think, you're creating a hypothetical. If every game henceforth looks like the one with the Jets, sure, everybody would start to get frustrated. But I don't think that's going to happen. And I think this offense is going to figure it out because Sean Payton he's self-reflective enough, I think, to sort of start to figure it out. And we've seen the play calling kind of change from week to week a little bit here. And there's been moments where it's really nice and it's flowing really well. And then against the Jets, it didn't look good at all. Now, did Bo Nix do him any favors? Not really. He didn't play great. The offensive line didn't look really that good either. And you had that injury, right? You're talking about Matt Pert at left guard. So replacing Ben Powers, that's a blow there. And so this offense is back here trying to pick up the pieces after that. But the great thing is you found a way to win, Eric. You found a way to win in spite of poor offensive play and poor special teams play, which shows you that this is a team. And this is a team effort. And it's not always going to look perfect. And, it's not aesthetically pleasing, as Sean Payton said. There are no style points. You didn't cover the spread. You were supposed to blow this historically bad team out, and you barely won, but you did win. And that's what is the most important. And so you can lick your wounds after that and feel better knowing that you won. And the mistakes you're going to correct were not mistakes that led to a loss. They were mistakes that didn't allow you to play your best, but you still won. And you beat an NFL team doing it.
Going into the game, did you feel it'd be possible to have this type of narrative? My goodness, the Broncos really missed Ben Powers in that one.
Well, sure. I mean, look, the offensive line for the Broncos has been tremendous thus far in the season. Ben Powers has been a part of that offensive line that's been available every game, that's been playing at a high level, keeping Bo Nix clean, blocking well for J.K. Dobbins. Has it been perfect? No. But Ben Powers has been a staple of that. And so when you take a guy out of that on the offensive line, you put in someone else, it messes with the chemistry set, man. It messes with the communication. His style of play is a little different. He may be and is a very capable football player because he's in that position, but still, the offensive line moves as a unit. They're 5, synchronized sumo wrestlers, moving all together as one. And you put someone new in there in the moment, it's gonna throw things off a little bit. So that's not surprising to me, but all the more reason to call a game that's simple and allows these guys to do simple things that they do well and not complex things and tricky things that they might not do well.
Just got a text from our fabulously mediocre executive producer, David Levine, who said, We have some comments that I cannot read on my screen. Can you read in studio? You got anything up there?
Yeah, we got.
I'll read it. I'll read it because it's probably I'm closer to my own monitor. This is what Jake had to say. Yeah, Jake, because it just popped up on my screen. Defense is great, but make no mistake, you're going to face teams who will put up 24 plus on the Broncos defense at some point. Offense, to your point, needs to attack. Yes, you have to have a great D, but you're not going to ride that way the whole way. And I think Jake is spot on, and I think that's what we have been talking about. But one thing that is really killing this team, and it did going into the game, and you can make the case it killed an entire drive. And I'm talking about penalties. How there was one particular drive that the Broncos, I can't say that I'm sure this would have happened, but I'm pretty much guessing it would have happened. They would have scored a touchdown. And it started with a bad decision by Bo Nix sliding 1 yard short of the first down marker. And then they get a penalty after that. And then Franklin catches a nice pass and a penalty after that. All that said, going into the game, the Broncos had been flagged 52 times, fourth worst in the league. Penalty yards, 411, second worst in the league. Yesterday, they were flagged 6 times, 37 yards. 5 were on the offensive line. And I think at least 4 of them, or at least 3 or 4 of them, weren't even accepted. This team, specifically on offense, is killing itself and killing drives. So is this on coaching, or as a former player, is this on the players?
Ultimately, nobody's responsible for a penalty other than you, the player who commits the penalty. That said, it's an attention to detail issue when you do commit a penalty, whether it's a technique issue that you're not having, or a pre-snap penalty, or you're mentally losing it for a second. It's a snap count issue. It's a delay of game, whatever it might be. It's your mind that's not in the moment or rooted enough in your technique to not make the mistake. And so what that tells me is when it's happening in multiple places, it's not just one guy who's doing it. It's an overload mentally. It's either I'm confused and I don't know where to be, or I got too much in my head about this play, or I'm out of position because I thought this was going to happen and this happened. And again, that comes back to too much on my plate from coaches in the playbook. And a lot of times you get into the play, you're getting the play in late. It's a long play call. You get to the line, you're hurrying through it. You're out of position. You don't see this guy moving over here, which affects your job. And then you're out of, and then, so a lot of that is happening with this team. And to me, that's a product of guys who are confused out there. And then that comes back to coaching.
Is this team undisciplined?
Offensively,
when you see all those penalties, you can make the case they are. And
yeah,
when you have an undisciplined, when you have an undisciplined team, then you can make the case the coaching staff is allowing it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a trite way to put it, as undisciplined, because that kind of, when you say undisciplined, it makes me seem like it's like willy-nilly with a coach who doesn't have control over his team, and it's guys doing whatever and taking cheap shots.
They're one of the most penalized teams in the league, Nate. They give away so many yards because of penalties. They are, when you look at penalties, they are an undisciplined team, and that is indisputable. Just look at the penalties and the yards that they get because of it. They are killing themselves by not being disciplined, by holding, pre-snap penalties, things like that. They are undisciplined.
If you want to put it like that,
and they're a veteran team to boot.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to put it like that, to me, they're not dotting their I's, crossing their T's. They're not sure of where they're supposed to be and what they're supposed to be doing. They're not certain of what the game plan is. They might, and it's hard for me to understand exactly to what depth that is true, because I'm not in those meetings. I don't know what's in the playbook. I don't know how they install their stuff. But there's an installation sort of routine, right? Wednesday, you put in a certain type of plays, usually the base plays and this and whatnot. Thursday, you put in your red zone stuff and your third down stuff. Friday, you put in short yardage goal line, and maybe that's when you do red zone, whatever it is. Every coach has different stuff. But sometimes a coach will have a few wrinkles, right, that they want to do this week. And they'll put it in on Wednesday, and then they'll try it. And doesn't look quite how they want, so they'll try it again on Thursday. But we're going to do a little different today based on what we saw yesterday. And then on Friday, well, what we saw yesterday, we're going to change it a little bit again now. And actually, by the way, last night, which was Thursday night, I was up late in my office, and I had an idea. I wrote down a couple new things we want to try. So Friday, we're going to put them in the morning meeting, and then we're going to try it out on practice on Friday. Well, we like the way that looked, but if they give this look, it might be a little weird. But we're going to try it in the game, okay? Imagine having that mentality on your wrinkles going into the game. It makes it confusing, where 90% of the plays you should have are the bread and butter that don't change. And to me, that should be the stuff you focus on. The Broncos should do certain things well every week, and you know what it is, and it doesn't matter if you know it's coming, because we're just better than you, and we can do it well. What are those things that the Broncos do? And it's hard to pinpoint those. We don't know every week what they do well, because they always do different shit, or at least that's what I'm seeing. Courtland Sutton should get more than 3 targets. He should have 10 targets every game. I don't care. Courtland Sutton should have 10 targets every game, and he didn't. And I don't know why. I don't know why you're not throwing him the ball constantly, because he is your most dynamic pass catcher, Evan Ingram is coming on. I'd like to see him get more passes. But it's confusing to me as to why you're not doing the stuff that seems obvious.
On a scale of, I have one question in two parts, just like Rodney Dangerfield in Back to School. I have one question in two parts. Answer the first one quickly so I can get to the follow-up. After they wound up coming back to beat the Eagles on the road, short week, undefeated, defending champs, scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest, what number would you give them as now being serious Super Bowl contenders? Give me a quick answer.
After the most recent game?
No, after the game against the Eagles, what number would you give them? 10 being the highest, 1 being they'll never make the playoffs, 10 they have a really good chance to potentially win a Super Bowl. After the Eagles game only.
8.
And what are they today?
6.
Really? With that offense and special teams, you're giving them a 6? That's pretty high.
Well, they're 4-2. They beat an NFL team.
I did not ask the overall record. I said game.
6.
This is a snapshot of today. Because if you played a good team on Sunday, you lose and you lose big.
I don't know if that's
the way
true,
they
man.
performed against the Jets.
I think they played down to their competition. They met them where they were, and they messed around with them a little bit too much. I think that.
So when you played, do you feel in your head when you played an inferior team, you played down to the competition?
A lot of teams do that.
You looked across the line of scrimmage and said, "This guy can't cover me." Is that how you felt? Because I find that to be an excuse.
No, I mean on an individual level, a personal level, no. But some teams do that. Some younger teams, and I know you don't think this is a younger team, but a team that's still trying to find its identity, they're not the same every day or every week. They are different based on their opponent. I mean, the Denver Nuggets have had that problem, right? Playing down to their competition at times and then playing up to the guys who are better. A lot of folks do that, and they're their best against the better teams, and then they think they can take their foot off the gas a little bit. Maybe they start reading the newspaper clippings. Maybe they hear how bad the Jets are. Maybe they see all that stuff. Maybe they get enamored with the travel and they want to go out and do this. And then Sean Payton's having his victory lap in England for his old Leicester Panthers thing, and they're doing all these ceremonies. And it's like, what are we doing out here? Are we here to play a football game, or are we here to grow the game internationally and have a really fun time with our international fans? Well, that can take your focus away a little bit on dominating your opponent. And so you might take them a little more lightly. And then it's your ass when you get out there on Sunday and you make mistakes that are uncharacteristic of your mentality.
Nate, you said they were reading their press clippings. How in the world can they possibly do that? They were in a foreign country.
Oh, they have the internet. They watch Going Deep, Eric. They heard you say that this is the third game of the trifecta of the trilogy, and they should blow them out by 50, and everyone around here was saying that. This is the worst team since the Pop Warner, whatever the hell. I mean, everyone was talking about how awful the Jets were and how great the Broncos were. Human nature is only going to seep in a little bit there, and it's up to Sean Payton and the coaches to create messaging that takes you away from that says, you guys ain't shit. You think you're great about beating the Philadelphia Eagles? Did you see they just lost to the Giants? Oh. And, the Jets are a better team than we think they are and all that. You got to even the scale somehow. But, I'm not saying that he didn't deliver those messages. I'm sure he did. But the Broncos still made a lot of mistakes and let these guys hang around, and if it wasn't for the Broncos defense, they would have lost that game.
Well, literally and figuratively today, we went deep. I threw the ball from Chicago to Denver. We went deep. We'll talk to you on Thursday. Make it the best possible day you can.